Hey everyone, this is David Ellis, and I'm here with.
Amy Kruzic.
And today
Welcome.
we have a very special topic that we're going to be discussing, which is resistance and rationalizations, which is going to
Yes.
be a very interesting topic for most of you guys, because a lot of people live by resistance and a lot of people live by rationalizations. We should probably put some ground rules in the definitions.
Yes.
So, what is resistance? Resistance is, well, quite simply put, when you are against something or when you put the force of will against something, you resist that thing. For those of you who don't know, a little bit of theology trivia for you. The word Satan, as in the word Satan, means to resist. He who resists.
Ah,
Uh, that's a little bit of theology trivia for you. That so it comes from the word satanis, which is to resist, right? Rationalizations is when you utilize the logic and reasoning process to justify any particular goal or end. Okay, so you can rationalize something away. Like, as an example, I could totally afford the Ferrari if it is that I just move around some payments, put a little bit, put a little late payment on the house bill or whatever else, the mortgage and so on, but we can afford the Ferrari. It's not a big deal. That's a rationalization. It's a dumb rationalization, but in the mind of the person making it, it's a good rationalization. So, Amy, you want to get into this?
yes. Let's get into it because I I read this book, not yet the whole thing, but the art of war, the war of art, war of
Oh, yeah.
art. Okay, so we talked about resistance and rationalizations and why we're not creative and what happens, right? So I'm going to say the resistance would be when you're resistant about something, but it could be your true calling, but you're resistant of it.
Um,
So,
yes, that would be 99% of the world's population are not true to themselves and their calling. And I'm talking about you guys that are working in jobs that you hate. Yeah,
yes. Yes.
I'm talking about you
Yes.
guys.
Because and then you have this rationalization, well, I'm making good money, so I'm going to keep this job.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So most people resist themselves 9 times out of 10.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's say you want to become an artist or you want to become something, but then other people tell you you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. The world is full of people with coulda, shoulda, woulda. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people resist themselves, so they won't even try. They
No, they
won't even
won't.
try.
And and speaking of this with your AI and stuff, I had resistance with it, if you remember. It's like, "Oh my god."
Yes.
Oh my god, I don't know if I could do all this. I don't know. But I do have this person that talks to me, it's like, "Just try a little bit at a time because I wanna go into, like, "Okay, come on, let's do it. Let's get it over with. Let's just learn." Whereas if you take little baby steps, if you're really resistant to it, I
So,
think that
so
helps.
I'm going to out you on this
Yeah.
broadcast. Let
Go
me,
ahead. Go ahead.
guys, up until a few days ago, probably a month or so ago, Amy had an iPhone which she was very, very used to.
Oh, yes.
And when I say very, very used to, I mean very, very used to. Used being the operative word there. And she would not upgrade the
No.
iPhone. And eventually, she had to upgrade the iPhone because stuff stopped working on it. Now,
Yeah.
the rationalization would be I'm being very prudent and thrifty by not upgrading.
Okay, it was a 10R. It was
All right,
bad.
all right, 10XR, right?
Yes.
Um, I'm being very prudent and thrifty by not upgrading my iPhone, which sounds reasonable. It's a rationalization, however, until the app stopped working on your
So, and
phone,
it got hot. The phone was getting really hot.
and your phone starts getting hot in your hand, which poses now a health risk. So the rationalization that she would have is, I'm being prudent, I'm being thrifty. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix.
All right. But the truth of the matter is, and it's a good rationalization. I mean, come on. There are some people, as soon as the year turns around, they want the newest iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's dumb. Having said that, when your phone is begging to be find a final resting place in your backyard somewhere, you should probably change the phone. So you have to, there's somewhere in between where rationalizations become a little bit overboard. But then
Yeah.
there's the resistance part. Like you mentioned, the AI construct.
Yeah.
Now,
People resisting that.
there are a lot of people who are resisting the advent of artificial intelligence. Resist as you may, it's coming.
Yeah.
Okay. So I build artificial intelligence tools, and I remember introducing it to the spiritual community. Oh
Mhm.
boy.
Yes. Wait, I don't want it to write my prayers and revocations. What are you talking
Yeah, I
about?
don't want an AI
I
writing
have
my prayers. I'm sorry.
that,
I-
that's inauthentic.
Mm.
Right.
Now you see that's actually very interesting, because the thing about it is that whenever people use that word authentic and inauthentic,
Yeah.
it's coming from the realm of I am judging something external to myself. If an AI wrote a prayer for me and I said the prayer in earnest, then it is authentic because it's coming from me,
Mhm.
right? But some people think, no, you're supposed to sit down and meditate and write the prayer yourself. And I'm like, okay, which is why people who are using AI are leaps and bounds ahead of all the other businesses that are out there.
Yeah.
Quite simply put,
Yeah.
you're not going to catch up. You have people that could put out content almost every day, every
Yeah.
hour of every day, and you are putting out content once a week. Or you're just putting out stuff for people who are your customers once a week. It's ridiculous, right? You won't win.
Right, because thinking of all those things takes up a lot of your time when you can be using it in other ways
Hmm.
for yourself. So AI is kind of like an assistant, a personal assistant.
Correct.
So it does help you, and you have to input the you have to input the what am I trying to say? Input the information,
The prompt, the
the
prompt.
prompt, the prompt. Sorry, the prompt. And so you're working together. You're working together. I know how much you love your little Destiny because you work with her so much that she knows you inside and out. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So artificial intelligence is actually an aid. It's not
Yeah.
a hindrance if you are actually in that space. When we're
Mm.
talking about resistance in personal relationships, however, it's actually quite funny because a lot of people experience resistance in becoming friends with someone, or
Mm.
right entering. There are a lot of married people that are still in resistance to each other. Oh god, there are a lot of married people that are still in resistance to each other 30 years down the line. I still don't like you or trust you completely. So this is basically what we're talking about here when it comes to resistance in personal relationships, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And people rationalize things. I remember one of the main rationalizations for women is, well, I'm getting 30 years old now. I need to settle down. My eggs, what was the thing about the eggs?
Yes. They won't work. They I don't know,
There
getting
was-
less and less. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
not they're not going to
My
be able to
eggs will
fertilize,
dry up or something or
dry up.
whatever, right? And I'm like, that's a rationalization for doing a stupid act, like getting involved with the wrong man to have a
Yes.
baby with that wrong man. because you think that there's a biological clock that's ticking somewhere.
Exactly. I mean, my mom had a baby at 41 back in the 70s.
Yeah. And so there's this whole thing. Well, there's a risk to having babies a little bit older. When you get older, you know that that risk has been actually eliminated by modern science now, right?
Yeah.
You guys know this, right?
And
It's
do
been
you
all but eliminated because now they can actually track the development of the baby in the womb. And if there's something that needs intervention, they can actually do that. We're not talking about back in the 70s or the 80s anymore.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so women in their 40s are actually having healthy babies.
Now,
Now,
let me
go ahead.
just put this in about the spiritual realm of things is that when a baby wants to come through, it's going to come through no matter what.
Okay, I'm getting
Right?
vibes like like the alien vibes. If a
I
baby
know.
wants to come through, it's gonna
Yes, a
come.
baby.
Alien
I
movie vibes.
I believe it. I believe it. I believe that. That's just my thing. I think that if you're meant to have a baby, you will.
Do you think that people who have commitment issues are experiencing resistance in relationships?
What? Say it again.
Do you think that people who cannot commit to a monogamous relationship or are
Mhm.
experiencing resistance within themselves
Yeah.
that say, yeah, no, this is not good for me?
Yeah.
I think so. And I think this is becoming more prevalent. I think as the generations go on, in the generation before our time, that was commonplace. You get yourself into a committed relationship. You go do the school thing, you find the girl or the guy, and you got married and you moved on. Yeah, don't tell Gen Z that. Oh hell no.
No.
Gen Z is
No.
all off the map. They're not even on the map anymore. All right? They're not doing any love and committed anything. Everything is transitory. And I think it's that is the one of the things that is going to play a part in how society um ends, really. Okay.
Is there a fear there? The
More
fear?
of a resistance because they've seen firsthand the number of divorces that our generation has handed them. And now commitment is something that is um, optional. And by optional, I mean we're not doing it. Right? And so commitment is something that's optional. There are a lot of Gen Zers who would not get married, specifically because times are harder.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be able to afford a house. I think the relationships between men and women are becoming more strained and volatile.
Mhm.
I think women do not trust men. I think men definitely do not trust women. On the men's side, there is a resistance to get into relationships with women because you have a bunch of men called the manosphere telling them that women are inherently untrustworthy. And to a certain extent, and this is going to sound controversial, let me explain. Don't jump all over me, Amy. Let me explain before I say it. To a certain extent, there is some truth to that, but it is a sign of the times as well, because women have learned that they can also become predatory. So, social media is teaching women to become predatory in terms of you must know the net worth of the man that you are going to marry because he is going to support you for the rest of your life. And yeah, you need to marry a man with money. So there is a transactional aspect to this. So yeah, nobody trusts each other. So everybody has resistance because there is no trust.
Wow. I don't even know what to
And women
say.
are correct in not trusting men because the same social media has guys on there who are telling men women are not worth anything. Okay? And then the thing about it is that when you go out with resistance in your mind, one of the rules of the mind is what is expected tends to be realized. So if you're
Mm,
looking for untrustworthiness, you're gonna find it.
yeah.
You gotta find it. Oh, I'm sorry. Did she flick her hair this way? Yeah, that I don't trust that.
Oh my
You know,
god.
right? Right? All these little mannerisms. Yeah, I don't trust
Okay,
that.
so then what is the constructs that set this all up?
Times are harder. I think the world is not easy anymore. I think people have survival is becoming more difficult. Okay. So let's say you went to school back in the day, you were able to find um the other half, whether it be a woman or whatever else, and you all got to know each other the traditional way, as in you actually saw each other, like y'all met,
Yes, yeah. Yeah, there
and y'all
wasn't
sat down and y'all had a conversation. Yeah,
yes.
not now. No, everything is done online. And
Digital.
the problem with online is that nothing is real.
Yes.
Everything is fake.
Okay. Well, I forget what I was gonna say about that. Darn it. About that. Okay, so what is the rationalization that the men are using and the women are using
Mhm.
as regards to I don't trust them? What's their rationalization? Did they have parents they didn't trust their mom or their dad or somebody?
Remember that our generation is the generation that messed things up. We
Okay.
came off from a generation of people who understood that they had to go to work and do stuff. And the internet came about thanks to the social media giants, and people started to interact, and you got to see the worst sides of people. And the worst sides of people are contagious because other people look at these TikToks and whatever else, and they try to incorporate it into their lives. Okay. So the thing about TikTok and the social media is that good vibes don't sell. We're doing this
Okay.
podcast.
Yeah.
We're talking about matters that are important. We don't expect that this podcast is going to be the biggest podcast ever. But
Yeah.
guess what? But guess what? At least it has good vibes. We're talking about things that are actually happening in society. And I'm telling you that in social media, what social media has done is made everybody fake and poisonous and toxic. That is a statement of truth. So this we gave this to our kids. We gave them phones at what, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old.
No.
We expected them to have like judgment at 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old. And eventually what happened is that the kids started interacting with people who are definitely toxic. Okay. And they became toxic as well. So you're trying to explain to children virtues and all those things that are good things, and they're going to be looking at you like that makes no sense in this world. It doesn't make any sense. Okay. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. When I moved to Toronto, I came from a place where it was customary to say good morning to people when you enter a room.
Mhm.
Yeah. So my first day entering a corporate environment, I get into an elevator with my effervescent self and I say, "Good morning, everybody." And then there was silence everywhere. Nobody answered me back because all that good manners thing, that's gone because nobody trusts each other. So now, because when you say good morning, they're like, "What does he want?"
What is yeah.
And so you now
Mm.
have to reconfigure yourself, and you have to make a rationalization that what you deemed to be good manners, you got to abandon because, yeah, it's not going to be received well. The world is not getting easier. People are less trusting. People do not engage anymore. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah. Because I yeah, go ahead.
You remember the days when you would go into a little mom and pop shop and they would be playing the Beatles and then you would break out into song with them and sing along and stuff like that? Yeah, that's not happening anymore.
No? How can we say that that's not happening anymore? There has to be pockets still left. I know there's pockets of that still left.
Where? Please let me know.
Well, you have to come visit down here.
You have to come visit that one.
Yeah, because there are pockets. There's still those little shops and things. I can't agree with everybody is that. I can't agree with that.
Okay, sure.
Sorry, but I just feel like I get that it feels like it's more. What if it feels like it's bigger than we think, but it's really not. It's just portrayed that way out in the
Okay.
media. Okay.
First, there was COVID.
Well, yeah, that was yeah.
And what COVID did is break the spines of people. And I'm going to
Yeah.
say this live on a broadcast. And I really don't care whether this broadcast is censored or whatever the case may be. COVID and the way people acted, it broke the spines of people.
Yeah.
People are less willing to engage anymore after this happened. I keep telling people think of your life prior to this COVID 2020 thing and think of your life now. People are not engaging anymore like they used to, right? Because people learned very early a fundamental truth of human nature is that when people are scared, they become unpleasant.
Yeah.
Okay? They will snitch, they will tell you what to do. People got attacked for no reason in the supermarkets, and that has left a indelible mark on the minds of people. So when you go out in public right now, there is a tension that is there that you can't, well, not probably not where you live,
Well, no,
Amy,
I don't
but
think
where I live,
I don't
there is a tension that is there and a distrust of people that was not there prior to COVID. I live in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay? I can tell you that Canada has changed dramatically for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons it changed is after this COVID thing happened, as an example, people are now in full resistance to interacting with other people. They are in full resistance. Okay?
Wow.
They're not as trusting anymore. For sure not. They're very cautious and they're very wary.
Wow. Okay, yeah, we're seeing two different realities here.
You-
Well, wait, let me
let me see if I get this straight. Where you
wait.
live, people are actually interacting and being nice and pleasant and singing along with you and stuff like that.
Well, no, well, I don't go out there singing along with me.
Yeah, because that used to happen to me prior to 2020. I literally used to go into stores and depending on the music that they had on,
Well,
people say,
yeah.
"Oh, I like this kind of music," and a conversation would happen, and we would interact. So
Okay.
let me ask you a question: do you
Okay.
see that anymore?
Okay. I just as you said that with the song and everything. Okay. So right, if I'm going through a rack of clothes or something and I'm singing the song that I hear, I'm just going through and I run it and somebody's coming the other way and we're going to meet in the middle in the rack. There's nothing, you're right. There's nothing that they I say, "Oh, excuse me," or "Hi," there's nothing. They just kind of go around me when
Hmm.
I'm looking. Yeah. Okay. I get that, but I don't understand how that.
Let me try it another way. Let's try it
Yes,
another way.
try it another way.
Okay, men and women.
Yeah.
You remember the time when if I met you and I didn't know you in a store somewhere, a conversation would happen without the tension of sexuality or any of that stuff happening,
Yeah.
right? You would be singing the Beatles and be like, you'd say, "Hey Jude," and then I'd say, "Don't be a fool."
Yeah.
And we break out into song. There's no weirdness at all. Now, I'm gonna ask you, do you find that when you interact with members of the opposite sex, there is weirdness present?
Hmm.
You don't get
I
out
I
much, do you,
I sure
Amy?
no, 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 I'm going back in my head about, if I'm at a restaurant or, in Walmart. I honestly there could be weirdness. There could be weirdness, but I think it equals out because I don't
I'm,
know.
I'm waiting to hear the equal
I
outcome.
well, let's just say I'm not gonna, if I'm in line and waiting in line, I will, sometimes I don't wanna be talked to. Sometimes I'm just in my own little I just wanna wait in this Costco line that's
Okay.
okay. So there is that. There's some times where it's like, I don't feel like chatting because there are chatty people, you know, in Costco when you're waiting in those long lines, right? For
Okay.
me.
So
So
dig this. So dig
so
this. We have trade shows where I'm from, and at the trade shows we have ladies who are in the esoteric community, and when I meet them, it's like, hello, grab, hug.
yeah,
Okay, no weirdness.
no weirdness.
You think that is something that you could do in a work environment or anything like that? People are not like that anymore. They're not like the smile on their face, like I'm genuinely really happy to see you. I have that with some people, like at the gym and so on, but then I train at 5 o'clock in the morning. So if you anybody, I'm happy to see you.
Yeah, at
Right?
5 in the morning.
At 5, I have that with some people, very few people, that kind of genuine interaction, but I can't see that it's a pervasive thing that is in society anymore, right? And I ask the
Yeah,
audience here, how many people that do you have out there who like you can just the smile is genuine, there is genuine interaction, there's no weirdness, no noise in the stream. I call it the noise in the stream. There's no noise in the stream. It's just genuine interaction. I have
yeah,
that with you, Amy. I have that
yeah.
with a bunch of other people. But I'm going to tell you that it's not something that is a standard in society.
Okay, I get that. So here, this just came to me. I told you that I went to an event in New Jersey, which is near New York City, outside New York City, right? So I'm at the event and I have my chair. My chair is like right in the middle of every, so I'm in the middle of so there's this one person on my left and another on my right,
Mhm.
and this girl did not want to chat. She did not. I even tried to make eye contact. She didn't want to chat. This one, chatty, chatty. The next three people down were all chatting. So there's like that balance of I don't know. Is it out of
What do you
balance?
think? What do you think the resistance was in the young lady next to you?
It felt as if like I don't want to be bothered today. I'm in my little zen zone. And it was well over an hour before the show was going to start. So she sat there a whole hour.
So my next question to you is, what do you think is at the basis of the resistance of interaction?
Well, that I mean, I'm only making assumptions here, but um I don't know. Hold on. I don't know what it would have been
Could
for
it
her.
be that she's had bad experiences and she distrusts?
Yeah, because she didn't talk to the person on her other side either. She just
Okay.
she just talked she just looked straight ahead.
And that would be her being in resistance.
Yeah.
Now, does that make her happier? Probably not. But by that same token, right, it makes everybody uncomfortable around there when you don't interact. And I understand these things, right? People are in
Yeah.
resistance. They don't want to interact anymore. There are a lot of people like that young lady around. They're
Yeah.
like I'm just done with people.
Yes, that's what it felt like. She's just done with people, but yet this auditorium was quite noisy. People were chatting. I saw
Mhm.
people interact with people. I guess where that's where I'm getting to be like that's where I was kind of like saying,
Yeah, it does
"What?"
balance out, especially
It's
if you're in an environment where networking is part of why you are there.
yeah. Yeah, to meet other people. Why would you go to an event unless you wanted to meet other people? Yeah.
Because some part of them knows that it's good to have community, and another part of
Yeah.
them feels like I want to resist. And I know how that feels because when I came from Toronto to another place in Canada, I didn't want to interact with people because I was done with people.
Yeah. So you
Okay,
had
so
that resistance, correct?
I did have that resistance.
And what was your rationalization behind the resistance?
Um, People are mean, but then I
Okay.
was working in a corporate environment. So people have to be mean. And their rationalization for being mean is that we're in a corporate environment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there is that. But when you're talking about rationalizations, it's very interesting when you're thinking, hmm, how do you rationalize your behavior when you are dealing with people? As an example, let's look at our daily news.
Mm.
Did you know that we're in a war? You guys are in a war
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Iran. You guys
Yeah.
are in a war with Iran. What is the rationalization for going to war and dropping bombs on Iran?
Peace.
I have never been able to understand
I know.
how you
Isn't there a
get
book?
peace
Isn't there
by
a book?
dropping bombs on. Oh, I'm sorry, they're not breathing anymore. Peace. Now, having said that, no, I'm going to call myself out on my own bullshit.
Yeah.
Having said that, in the Wild West, I keep telling you this, people had peace. Like, if I disagree with you, I was going to meet you at high noon
Yeah.
on Main Street. We're going to have a gunfight, and then there would be peace because you're not breathing anymore, or I'm not breathing anymore. Okay?
But
So, having said that, I have never been able to understand how you get peace by dropping bombs on people's country. I've never been able to understand that. So I think the rationalization is we can't let them get nuclear weapons. Okay.
yeah, that's rational. Yeah, they're rationalizing it. Yeah.
The
Why don't we
rationalization.
just stay out of it?
I think they believe that it's in their best interest to protect Israel because the truth
Mhm.
of the matter, if Israel is moved off the map, the whole of the Middle East is lost to them in terms of politics, right?
Yeah.
And so what is happening is that they need to protect their interests, so they will drop bombs on Iran. Now, the problem with the Middle East, specifically based on their rationalization, is that these people tend to have very long memories due to the fact that they've been fighting since biblical days.
Yeah.
So if they've been fighting, listen, if I knew people were fighting since biblical days, I would leave these people alone. Because anything you say wrong to these people will be remembered for the third and fourth generations. I'm not getting my descendants involved in a conflict because I decided, oh, let me run up inside there and interfere with a fight that is going on between cousins because apparently
Mhm.
the Jews and the Arabs are actually cousins. And yeah, embroil myself in like hundreds of years of fighting. But then, I suppose there's geopolitical concerns that are involved here.
Yeah.
Now, my issue is that the rationalizations that people use to support war or peace, as the case may be, is dumb as hell. Anybody could see through that. Do you really look?
Maybe we need to read that book, War and Peace.
Yeah,
Maybe. Did you ever read
yeah.
it?
I don't think you get peace by
No.
becoming violent.
No.
You will get temporary peace. You won't get permanent peace.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think it's something that is advised. But it might be me being naive. But it's
Yeah.
in my understanding that throughout history, when you become violent, peace is not something that you can depend on.
Yeah. And I don't know. Did it, was this going on as U.S. history? I don't follow U.S. history, but back in the 19, when Abraham Lincoln, they went to war for a purpose, correct? The Civil War.
The Civil
There,
War was basically a war over the rights of slave owners and plantation owners. All right, they wanted to end slavery. The South was like, we have a cheap labor force, we're going to keep it. And yeah, things went very much sideways. And then a civil war erupted.
so that's on each other. Civil War is on each other. You're
Correct.
fighting your own people.
Well, I don't think the South of the United States considers the North of the United States their
Your own
people.
people.
I'm
Well,
just going to say that
I
right
do.
now.
I do. I
All right.
mean,
I
we're
mean,
past that.
I've been to the South of the United
Yeah.
States.
I lived there. I lived there. Yeah, that's true. Now that I'm thinking about it, when I said I came from
They don't
Pennsylvania,
consider the Northerners. But do you think people in Texas consider people in New York our people?
well, okay. In my mind, I think, but maybe I just think
You lived in Alabama, correct?
I did for 5 years.
Okay, you ever heard anybody from Alabama says we love the New Yorkers? The New Yorkers are our people. You never heard that in your life. Okay, I'm gonna go put my head on a block. Let's say you never. Let me.
Okay.
In Canada, it's East versus West. Okay, in
Oh,
Western Canada, don't tell Western Canada that the people in Toronto are their people. There's a lot of people out here that don't believe that that is the case. Um,
why? So they're in resistance then?
Oh no, everybody's in resistance to everybody else. And the division is made worse because the world is not getting easier. I
No.
think the world is not getting easier. People are being squeezed into certain um, boxes. So, as an example, let me show you how people are being squeezed. And this speaks to the resistance and rationalizations. The governments all over the world, they promote pharmaceuticals. Okay?
Yeah.
There's nothing, listen, when you are talking about healthcare and you bring money or profit into it, you know somebody's going to die, right?
Yeah.
So the governments promote pharmaceuticals via what they call a formulary. It's basically a list of drugs that the pharmacies provide. In Canada, I could just tell you that people began to resist this pharmacy thing when they realized that the pharmaceutical companies are not the most honest companies. When I went to law school, we did a bunch of cases from pharmaceutical companies. They were sued several times because of doing unethical practices. Okay? So we know what their reputations are. But the reputation became widespread, and people say, oh, no, I'm just going to take care of my health now. So I'll go to the gym, I'll take my supplements, and do what I need to do.
Yeah.
That's resistance. So the government adjusted in Canada. By now, they're trying to regulate the supplements that people
Oh.
take. Oh my God.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know
Wow.
how this is passing. So, as an example, they're trying to regulate the supplements. We're talking about vitamins and minerals and stuff like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
Collagen and these things. All right. And so they're trying to regulate this stuff. And what it does, it increases the price
Yeah.
of the product. That's what it's going to do. Now, the supplement companies have always been in resistance to the pharmaceutical companies, but they're not now. You want to know why this is passed? Because the supplement companies realize that if we get the same status of classification and regulation as the pharmaceutical companies, then we can increase our price. So your vitamin A, which was $10, can now become $26 instead. This is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So the rationalization is that we're making everything safe. But for the extra safety, you got to pay more. You
Yeah.
see how that works?
I see how that works.
Listen, resistance and rationalization is uh, all over society. So you got to pay a little bit more for the, extra safety. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Let me show you another example on a social scale. You remember when you used to be able to log into your banking app on your phone and just get stuff sent to you? Nope. Nope. No, what we're going to do is we're going to send you a code to your phone because we want to make sure that you are safe. Okay? So if you want to see your email, go to your phone because we're sending a code to your phone. It's called two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
Anything you do now is two-factor authentication. What people don't realize is that it forces you to carry around your phone everywhere and keep it on. so that everybody can track you.
That bugs you, but that does not bug me because remember that thing I talked to you about over the weekend that was like, "Oh my god," I was like, "Thank goodness I had it."
Or you knew a guy, right?
Because I knew a guy and I called him up. I'm like, "Can you help me?" Did I just get
No, but
scammed?
two-factor authentication does not make you safer. It doesn't.
I
Realistically, it doesn't.
Why?
Because, Amy, I could simply steal your phone.
Well, you don't have my code.
And it makes you a little bit less safe because if you have biometric scanning on it, I might have to take your finger with the phone now
No.
to get into the phone to get your money. This is not making you safer.
No.
Okay?
Well, I do. You're just making me think I have to put in a better code. I'm have a bad code for getting in my phone. So, okay, thanks for that. I'm not resisting it. I'm gonna just change my code.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I these things do not make you safer. I think the
Well,
world is becoming more complicated. It really is. And it's
does it
nonsense
have
when
to be though? Does it have to be complicated?
okay.
Wait, do you become a hermit? Can people become hermits because of
Apparently
this?
no, because then they would send a code to your phone and you need to turn it on. You're not a hermit if you have this in your hand.
Why
And by the way, GSM reaches up to the Himalayas. So if you think you're going to hide out in a cave in the Himalayas, we're going to send a code to the Himalayas to get you back into the social media accounts, right?
Right.
It's look, I don't understand why the world has become like this, but the tension in the world is mounting, and people are in active resistance because they want to live lives free from stress, free
Yeah.
from heartache, free from misery. And apparently, everything is against them. I'll give you an example of resistance. I want to resist the fact that I don't want to go to a restaurant or the supermarket or the whatever to have somebody poison me with some chemical that they're putting in my food. Yeah, I'm just going to go and grow a garden. Okay? Problem.
Yeah.
The problem is that you may grow the garden, but when the government tells you don't water that garden, you can't water. You
Wait.
gotta pray for rain, right? And what
Yeah.
about the people who have self-sustaining systems?
Yeah.
Like this guy in, I believe it was Colorado. He was harvesting rainwater, and he had a system set up to take rainwater and convert it into regular water. Yeah, the government in his state shut that down. Why would you
Wait,
do
you
that?
mean the irrigation?
The
The
irrigation. So he
irrigation?
was using rainwater, he was holding it in a tank,
Yeah.
processing it, and turning it into drinking water so that he didn't have to connect to the city systems. The systems shut
Oh.
that down. I should have brought this to this broadcast and so on. They shut that down. What about the people who were planting little gardens, right? I can't remember. This is another place in the US. They were planting little gardens because they don't want to deal with people poisoning them. And the city told them that this place is not zoned for agriculture. You can't do that. As if I paid for this property, I should be able to plant whatever I want on this
Yes.
property. This is happening. These things are happening. People are in active resistance. They want to live healthy, full lives. But everything in the system, whether it be the legal system, the judicial system, the executive branch of the government, and so on, is making it harder for them to do that. So, what is the rationalization that they're using? Everybody has to be safe. Everybody has to play their part.
Yeah, they do play the safe card, like, "We're just keeping you safe," like COVID. "We're just keeping you safe." Yeah.
Yeah.
"We're just keeping
And
you
I
safe."
think that that excuse is old. And if you're
It's
gonna try
old,
that,
yeah.
if you're gonna keep running that, oh, we're just trying to keep you safe. How many times
Yeah.
are you going to utilize the same excuse? Okay,
I know!
people have agency. Let people grow their gardens. Let people have their supplements. There are people out here in where I live that make supplements. They make little lotions. They make poultices. They make
Yeah.
supplements, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
The government wants to do away with all of that, all these little small businesses. And I'm like,
Okay.
that's disgusting.
Yeah.
That's making everybody's life harder because it means that I would like to patronize these businesses.
Yeah. And I do whenever I see them.
Whenever I see them, I
I d
patronize them.
Yeah, I
Yes.
do, 'cause I
But
know.
that's my act of resistance because I'm not buying it from a store. But the
Well,
label that they're going to put on these people is that this is unsafe.
yeah.
And nobody believes that stuff anymore.
No. Okay, so how can we, our own agency,
Hmm.
our own resistance and rationalization, if we can take a fix that within us, or not fix it, but recognize it with discernment,
Hmm.
wouldn't that make a ripple out into the world?
Well,
That
here's the thing. I
Yeah,
think people are beginning to wake up to a certain degree because the only reason that they're waking up is because their lives have become harder,
yeah,
right? The only reason people are waking up is that their lives have become harder. Let's face it right now. Most people who are listening to this broadcast, there's quite a few of them. If they died today without any pain, they'd be like, finally, God.
yeah,
That is a morbid thing to say on this broadcast. I'm going to
yeah,
say it. There are a lot of people who, if they died today, it would be like a relief
yeah,
because their lives are very, very difficult. And they are not going to commit suicide. But by that same token, should something happen, right?
yeah,
And this is the thing that has pushed people into this construct of resistance. Now, if you keep following and not resisting the things that are happening to your life, what is going to happen is that you are going to become the kind of people who are without agency. There are a whole bunch of them living in metropolitan cities. They can't grow anything. They don't have the skills. They don't know anything about survival without the help of people. They don't know how they would not survive if all the systems failed today
hmm
because
hmm
they can't grow anything. They don't know how to plant. They don't know how to hunt. They don't know how to do anything.
yeah.
They go to desk jobs. They do their desk jobs from 9 to 5. They go back home.
There's so many conveniences, isn't there?
Yes.
We
And
have so many conveniences.
the conveniences are labeled as safe, and all the other things are labeled as not safe. And so people
Yeah,
are into resistance. But the rationalization that is used by them is that we don't have the time to learn all those things. David, you may have all this free time. Like nobody is as busy as me. All right.
yeah.
Right. Look, they are, but you know what? I'm thinking like, David, you may have all this free time to learn how to do this. You're taking up the gardening, you're taking up different things, you're learning this and you're learning that. If you don't learn these things, you just you're betting that this all this fake society that we have will always be here. But
Yeah,
as we found out in 2020, things your world could get kicked out from underneath you in a heartbeat. You could go to the supermarket and not be able to buy anything. What you gonna do?
yeah. So that's good. At least we know how to cook.
There's some people that don't know how to cook. Okay,
We know.
they're grown adults that don't know how to boil water.
I
That is
know.
that is the truth
At
of the
least,
matter.
right? At least we know how to cook. Oh my goodness.
If there's anything I would want the audience to take away from this broadcast is that you need to assess yourself.
Yeah.
How useful are you without all of these conveniences? When you
hmm
take them all away, the supermarket, take that away, right? You can't go and buy food at the supermarket, right? The banking system, take that away. Money doesn't mean anything. How useful are you without any of those things? Can you plant anything and make it grow and eat it? Can you go, I don't know, hunt a deer and do all of those things, that, right?
Maybe a
Uh,
chicken. I could do a chicken, but I don't know about a deer.
how useful are you? Because if you're not useful, the thing about it is that you are going to be, well, fairly useless to the people that are around you. So, how useful are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Mm, that's a
Tell
good
me,
question.
Amy,
Oh,
I
1 to
know you
10?
grow things.
I do. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. If I had no grocery stores, well, I definitely probably would become vegetarian unless I could get like you would have to build a community. Like I know my niece has chicken, so I'd be like, let's share this chicken. I don't know. Like
Okay,
I think that's you have to kind of
Amy,
build
I'm
this.
trying to imagine you trying to cut off a chicken's head, and that is exceedingly funny
I know, and pluck
visual
its
in my head.
feathers. I could pluck feathers. I could do that. But yeah, my husband's mother used to. I think it's in our hair, like his heritage. She used to do that. Yeah, in the basement, cutting chickens' heads off. So, right, it kind of is in our DNA a little bit, right? We just have to awaken it.
Okay.
So let's do that. Let's just say, let's practice.
Yeah, the thing about it, a lot of people, like when I talk to people, just generally in my office, little things like the majority of people don't know CPR.
Yeah, I
If a
had to have.
loved one were to drop down in front of them, look, if a
Yeah,
loved one were to drop down in front of them, they don't know what to do and stop breathing, that person is gone.
yeah,
Think about that for a moment. When you are in resistance to learning new things or rationalizing that
yeah,
you don't have the time to learn new things, think about a simple thing like CPR. Yeah, your loved one, your wife, your daughter, your husband, whatever the case may be,
yeah,
just collapsed. That person has stopped breathing and so on. What are you going to do?
yeah. I had to be certified in that for preschool.
Yes.
So it's no more mouth to mouth anymore. It's just compressions now. So, but that's it. I would have to get another certification for that, which I've already been through. So it wouldn't be a big deal for me to know that.
Yeah, but you can remember it because you
I
took
can
the
remember
class,
the compressions, right? The
right?
compression.
And even when you do remember it, how many people have been tested in this kind of way? Life tests you, and a lot of the
Yeah.
conveniences, one of the things that conveniences do is take away the life test that our grandparents used to have. So
Yeah.
you may have gone to a CPR class, but you've never had to do CPR in a
No.
live environment,
No.
right?
No.
You
Never
may,
have.
first aid is more common, right? You could do
Yes.
first aid.
I
People
could do.
break their arm all the time.
Yeah.
People get cut, bruised, etc. You know how to do first aid.
Yep.
CPR, not so much.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole bunch of people who, when something happens, they freeze because they haven't been tested in that environment. And so, you know,
Yes. See, you know what? There's an instinct though. I think I would freeze, but I know that I wouldn't. And I think it's because of the experiences I've had.
Amy, this is what
Yeah.
I think. Depending on the level of horror that you experience, to do the CPR, you would freeze or unfreeze. If somebody washed up on a beach, it's easier not to freeze.
Yeah.
But if somebody is involved in an explosion where you hear the explosion and so on, and that person
I
is lying there and the person has burns on them and so on, it is easier to freeze. Now,
I don't know if I
I
yeah.
let me give you the story of a friend of mine. We're going to call her Miss C.
Okay.
Miss C has this affliction. When she sees blood, she passes out. Okay?
Uh-oh. Did you
Whenever she sees blood, she passes out. She just goes unconscious. There are a lot of people with that affliction. However, Miss C's daughter was running, fell off of a fence, cut herself severely, deep cut,
Yeah.
and was bleeding. Miss C did not pass out. She acted.
Yeah.
And then when somebody came, when her husband came and took over, she passed out.
She passed out. Right. That's what I'm talking about.
So there is an override where
Yeah.
you become useful out of necessity
Yeah.
in everyone. But I think a lot of people have never had to tap into that override to actually act. So they generally tend to avoid things. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of interesting. Now you're making me think about things like, what do I resist and what do I rationalize?
When it comes to knowledge, the moral of this story, when it comes to
Yeah.
knowledge, don't resist knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's an override too in me. Remember all the resistances I had?
The things that you should resist, however, is things like control, external control, especially
Yeah.
over your agency. You
Yeah.
should not, you should definitely resist that,
Yeah. Okay.
right? Especially when people are trying to control what you eat, what you look like, what you dress like, etc. You should resist that. But knowledge, I don't think you should.
Yeah. And just skills. How about skills and talents and learning skills? I think,
Yes.
yeah, I
Because
think
you never
that's
know what you're actually good at and what you're actually bad at
right
until you
until you,
try it.
yes, I like that. But I like the other parts of the resistance of the agency you said, because I
Yeah,
definitely had that. I would
yeah.
rationalize it. I would rationalize it. Oh,
Yeah,
they're trying to
I
help.
remember running up into your rationalizations. I remember that specifically.
I know. I
And then,
know.
but
I
then the
think
rationalizations, how do you know a rationalization is reasonable? The word rationalization tends to suggest that it means reasonable, but some rationalizations are just dumb. How do you know? Because if your rationalization makes things really easy and convenient for you, it's
yes.
probably a dumb rationalization.
Yes, and I think fear has to do with it. I think when you have that sense of fear, you're on track.
Hmm.
You're on track. You're like, I have resistance. I have this fear. I don't know if I can do it. Whatever you rationalize in your mind,
Yes, but
it,
just, you know,
the fear is the right track to me, I've noticed.
I think that if your rationalization makes things really easy for you, oh, I am 20 years sober, you know,
I
one little bear is not.
right. I can go into a bar and drink. I can watch you drink, you know.
I'm 20
Yeah.
years sober. One little taste of a glass of wine is not going to derail me. A rationalization, it made things easy for you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, mm, I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
This was good.
Well,
Anything,
guys,
yeah, anything you need to add or say what you're working on or what's happening at UCM?
For those of you who are watching this broadcast, we've opened up a store, shop.onexa.com.
Oh,
You guys should check that out because we have a lot of software to make your lives easier and stop the resistance. And we also have another store called shop.arsessentia.org, which sells wellness clothing.
yes.
And yes, very cool.
Do I
We've got
have one? Look, look.
yes, Amy bought very cool. Not from here. I
Not
can
from
believe
here.
that. You ain't from around here,
I
are you?
ain't from I'm not from around here and I'm not resisting it.
Right.
I
You
should
can
have wore this the whole time.
yeah. So Amy's hat is our little alien hat that says not from here.
Yeah.
And you guys can purchase these products on our store at shop.arsessentia.org. You could go to the One Nexus store and you can get to the R store from there because we put links there for you guys. This has
Yeah.
been wonderful.
I know this is good. I think we inspired people to think about some things.
Yes, how useful are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Let us know in the comments
Yeah.
below.
Yeah, let us know. Well, until next time, keep
Take
it
care, guys.
keep it unscripted, guys.
Keep it unscripted. Take care.
Bye.